There we go. Nice. So, we're gonna read some red stories, and we start off with r/MaliciousCompliance. You want me to leave you alone so you can decide if you want to break up or not. Don't worry, I will decide for you. About 3 years ago now, I was in a very hostile relationship. Sure, he never put hands on me, but the emotional damage lasted a long time. To make a long story short, his favourite game was pretending that he was going to, do a bad thing. And I was the only person in the world who could stop him. I'm sure you don't need any more explanation to understand his character. Not only was he verbally abusive and incredibly manipulative. Try reading what you're seeing on screen. But he, of course, was a very jealous person. The event that leads up to my story revolves around a guy who was a very close friend of mine. Funny thing is that my ex liked him too. Always had nice things to say about him. Got along with him really well, etc. But it came time for this friend to go to college and he was moving away. I was sad and expressed to my ex that I would miss him a lot. Suddenly my then boyfriend became very cold and just stopped talking to me for hours. Oh yeah, exactly. Finally, after my texting him, nagging him, giving him space, he let me know that he was hurt, disgusted and betrayed. That I would ever speak about another man. The guy was 17, we were 19. Like that, he let me know that he needs some time to himself to think about what to do with me. Ooh, talking about people like you like them. Because how could anyone have a friend who isn't the same gender as them, right? Finally, after my texting him... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong part. This was probably the 4th or 5th time he had given me the silent treatment as a form of punishment. And they would usually last about a week or so. I would beg and beg and beg for him to talk to me. And finally he would grace me with his attention. And let me know that I was blessed with his forgiveness for my cruelty. Oh god, this guy sounds awful. Why are you with him? So I sat and waited, anxious and unable to sleep, because I was terrified that he would threaten to do something terrible to himself again. Then maybe 3 or 4 days later, something inside of me broke. I realised how peaceful things were for me when I wasn't talking to him. All of a sudden my rose-tinted glasses came off and I realised that I had lost attraction to him a long time ago and I was only with him out of fear. He was physically, mentally revolting, so I decided what I was going to do with him. Sure, I could just blocked him, and maybe nowadays I would have, but at the time this guy caused me so much emotional distress and I wanted to make sure I rubbed it in. This guy's horrible. I decided to just stay silent, like he wanted me to, and finally about 3 days after I made my decision he texted me, "So what are we?" I let him know that we were done. I have never ever seen him backtrack so hard. He blew up my phone with texts and phone calls, saying how sorry he was for ignoring me. They tried to say it was my fault, and that he was actually giving me space because he thought I was mad at him. All I said was that I was done trying to be in a relationship with someone who refused to talk to me about problems, and expected me to be responsible for their life. I blocked him. He tracked me down on every account I had on every social media, sending me these long paragraphs about how sorry he was. And he got blocked on those too. Yeah, I'm sure he was very sorry once he realised that he lost his favourite punching bag. This is where he surprised me. He was so caught up in saying that he was a good guy. Tough guy facade. I never thought he would try to involve other people. He went to our mutual friends and eventually drove them all away by begging them to make me talk to him or ask him to send me his long paragraphs. They read his letters to me and began to realise how horrible and manipulative he was. And soon they cut him off too. He showed his true colours to everyone shortly after, and revealed himself as an abuser, as he had always been. But that's a different story for another day. Remember this, folks. Communication is key. TLDR, ex-boyfriend expects me to sit in silence and wait for him to decide if we're going to continue to be together or not. I do what he wants, and I sit in silence. And there's another edit as well. It says, thank you so much for the kind words of kindness. The individual hurt me very deeply and severely, affecting my ability to trust in relationships. But slowly and surely, I have allowed myself to grow and have heal. And become someone that would, for sure, whoopee sorry, but if he ever came near me again. And then there's comments in there below, which is from multiple people. But one of the comments reads, toxic narcissists are very good at manipulating people. Yeah, there's something very wrong with him. Not sure how long ago that was, but it sounds like he needs some therapy before engaging in any kind of serious relationship again. Sounds like he needs therapy, period. So yeah, obviously this guy was horrible, right? I think we can all agree on that one. This guy is just horrible and a despicable person. Clearly OP was right to, you know, deal with it the way she did. I mean, they didn't deal with it in a hostile way. They dealt with it in a very passive-aggressive way. And ultimately showed, you know, the person who caused them so much pain that they wouldn't take their crap, and that if this is the way they wanted it to be, then they would no longer be together. I am glad now, though, that OP has figured out a healthier lifestyle and is trying to figure out their future and the kind of relationships that they do want to have, right? That's the main important thing here. We're going to move on to the next story. And this is Wash Your Half. This is a very short story. But this one made me laugh because it was so funny in so many ways that I had to include it, right? Sometimes the Malicious Compliance does simple stories are just so wonderful. So we're going to hop into this one as well. You guys can see this for yourselves. So, I have 3 older sisters. The middle one, Pat, passed away a few years ago. I was thinking about her this weekend and remembered a story that I believe fits here. When we were kids, we had chores that we had to do around the house. The oldest 2, Judy and Pat, had to do the dinner dishes. This was back when dishwashers were a luxury, and most families couldn't even dream of one. Judy, being the oldest, would try to manipulate things so she would get off light. Generally, this meant Pat would have to do the wash and rinse, while Judy would just dry and put away. The washing, and particularly the scrubbing of pre-Teflon pots and pans, was a real task. Anyone with not... Honestly, I'm going to say this now. Anyone who doesn't have a Teflon pan will know exactly what OP is saying here. Like, when stuff gets caked in the sides and you have to, like, dig it out and scrub it out, and it's just... You have to do that straight away, because if you leave it, it just becomes a nightmare, right? Anyways, and finally Pat complained enough to Mom and Dad and stepped in and said the work needed to be equally divided. If one washed and rinsed one night, then the other would do it the alternate night. So they would take turns. Well, Judy didn't like that, so she offered an alternative. Each of them would wash, dry and put away half of the dishes. That was deemed acceptable. So the first night Judy went first, doing barely enough to qualify as half, and leaving all the heavy scrubbing to Pat. Expensive, Anne! This was before they were cheaply available. Wait till you get to the end and then you'll be like, oh my god, I understand now. The next night Pat went first, and the Malicious Compliance began. With Mum watching, Pat carefully washed and dried exactly half of the dishes. The bottoms of all the plates, the handles of all the utensils, and the outsides of the bowls, glasses, pots and pans. When she finished, Mum smiled and agreed that she'd done half. Except for Judy, who had to wash all the tops and insides, and if some soap and water got on the part that Pat had cleaned, well, that was Judy's fault and she had to clean what she messed up. After that, they did the dishes together and alternated who washed and who dried. TLDR. Oh, come on. This is really short. Take a minute, sheesh. Edit. Holy crap. Never expected this to blow up like this. Thank you all for your awards and comments and kind wishes. We lost Pat to breast cancer at 70. The best thing you could do in your life is see your doctor regularly and take good care of yourself. And that was the final message. So, this happened. What? If this story's here now, 23 hours ago, 70 years ago, this happened like 1951. No, not 1951. They would have been teenagers. So the 1960s. 1960s this occurred. So, yeah, not everyone would have had a dishwasher and stuff. You know, modern privilege. Ah, yes, sibling squabbling, says one user. When I was 10, my sister and cousins and I shared a room on vacation. My sister and one cousin were older, both around 14, and my other cousin was younger, 11 to my age. Of course, we quickly formed age-based alliances, with the older ones trying to boss us younger ones around. When they complained about the state of their shared room, and they insisted that we at least clean up our half, Malicious Compliance was cued. After tidying up our own things, we carefully swept only our exact half, leaving a clear demarcation line of dirt down the middle. The best part, to my 10-year-old devious mind, was that we took the hand-hooked round rug in the middle of the room, straightened the folds and wrinkles on our side, and added a few to their side. Actually, the best part of it was that these alliances still hold, although we are now in our 60s. Haha. I can imagine, but, you know, sibling rivalries are a thing, right? It's not just as simple with siblings, it's going, I'll do this, you do that, and there'll be nothing. Often the amount of the time it'll erupt into some almost all-out warfare kind of stuff, right? Let's do this. Go. But yeah, that was one of the other malicious compliances. Let me just sort something out because my webcam's being a little funny. Let me do this. There we are. Sorted. So we're going to move on to the next one. And this one is hot seeking in tech support. This is tech support story. I actually quite like these ones. We're going to hop into this one. Hot seeking in tech support. I worked tech support many years back, and during the training we were given a lot of stupid little rules. The one that stood out for me was the most is that while we hot seated and were required to adjust our workstation for ergonomics, we were considered unqualified to do so. Any moving of the monitors, including adjusting, were to be done by a contractor. Holy crap, this is some malicious compliance. This is some, like, why? Why would you need this attention to detail? Which we had to submit a ticket for, and then go and wait in the break room until the contractor arrived. We could be technically written up for adjusting the monitors ourselves, which I saw happen to a few people when I first started working there, by who would later turn out to be a bullying of a manager. Now, the big kicker with the whole thing was that we weren't supposed to know about it, is that our office had been unable to find a contractor who did this kind of work. My trainer had told me when she probably shouldn't have. So he didn't even have a contractor to, like, come out and actually check these workstations. They just had this arbitrary rule that said, you can't edit anything on your desk, you can't move your mouse, you can't move your keyboard, you can't move monitors forwards, backwards, up, down, you can't tilt them. If you move something, we will write you up. So on a number of occasions when my manager was being particularly horrible, she'd asked to sit in on my calls. I'd sit at the desk and go, oh, this desk isn't set for me, I better submit a ticket. Then I'd wait out my entire shift reading in the break room, waiting for the contractor who would never ever end up coming to the office. It sorry, it was brought up in my performance review, but I just played dumb and brought up how my manager had issued written warnings on this exact issue. Eventually, about a week before I quit, they changed their procedures over it all. It's so dumb. So we have comments down below, and one of them is, what incompetence. I wonder how long it would have gone on if you hadn't subtly called them out on it. And then OP replies, probably forever. Even though my manager knew that there was no contractor, she played out the whole little charade of me going to the break room every time. She eventually transferred me to another manager who was great to work for. Her management style gelled with mine a lot better, and I kick back when someone tries to bully me. I think this is like super important. Like, this is like the perfect kind of malicious compliance. Like, you don't try to go for revenge. You simply just like, okay, you want me to do this? Like, you're serious. This is the rule. This is like the hill you want to die on, which is, unless a contractor approves my desk, I can't work at it. Fine. I will literally adhere to this rule constantly, and I just simply won't work at this desk. Well, it wasn't set up for me. The contractor didn't come and said it was ready, so I'm not going to work here. I was going to submit a ticket and go sit in the break room and wait, whilst getting paid for my time. And that's the genius one with this OP, is that you literally said, I will waste my time in the break room looking at nonsense while you guys literally lose money. So yeah, we're going to move on to the next one, which is, I need a wheeled vehicle, which is here. So this is a really, really short one. It's need a wheeled vehicle, okay. So, OP was visiting Austin right now for Formula 1. And after being exposed to 400,000 people in the crowd for the races, they decided to get a PCR COVID test to be safe. After checking around, Walgreens was the only place that offered the test, so they booked an appointment for their drive-through testing site. It took an Uber from their hotel since they didn't have a car. They assumed that if they would give me the rest through the window, or that would be that. So yeah. So when the pharmacist told me that I legally needed to have a wheeled vehicle, I asked her if this needed to be a motorized vehicle or not, which she replied, it just needs to have 4 wheels. So the vehicle only needed to have 4 wheels. So, OP walks around the front of the store, grabs a shopping cart, a shopping trolley for those of you who are British, puts their butt in it, and scoots back towards the window, where the sweet pharmacist, who had a good sense of humour, just laughed and says, okay, I guess that qualifies today, and gave me the test. And OP says that that made their day. And this is one of the best, yes. I love this because this story is, like, it's a pharmacist maliciously comply, it's OP maliciously complying as well. But it's the fact that both of them aren't like, oh, you're doing this to be annoying. It's both of them that are just like, this is absolutely hilarious. This is a story. And yeah, I really like that story. I think it just is so wholesome in so many ways. You know, that it has to be respected. Oh god, why did I do that? There we go. I need to be careful with BC face. It's a weird one. I'm gonna move on to the next story. And this one's an IT one. And I love IT stories. I do. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I mess around with computers a lot. I used to mess around with computers a hell of a lot more when I was younger. And this fits into my kind of messing around when I was growing up. I know, like, where I live, it's a bit weird for centres and stuff. Like, everything's just weird. I don't even know how to describe it. So let's hop into this and get into this story, shall we? Let me click there. 724. Alrighty. So, this one comes from a person who works in IT, obviously, as I said. Remove our admin privileges, and we will wait for the grief to come pouring down from above. So this happened 20 years ago, as OP was starting their IT career. The organisation they were working for was an early adopter, and had just rolled out Windows 2000. A delegated control was still a good idea, a long way off being implemented. It was discussed making this happen by sysadmins, but never got implemented to allow the help desk to have granulated permissions. But this had not been worked out yet. Anyways, OP was still working on the help desk and worked with a guy called Alec. Alec had been around since he thought Noah, who was building the Ark, had possibly handed him the hammer when needed. So Alec knew everyone and had interesting stories to tell. If Alec is on here, he can tell his own stories, says OP. The computer corporation that the organisation had to manage second to third level escalations above help desk decided that lowly help desk peons, Alec and I, could not have domain administration permissions anymore. I.e., instead of having full accounts, they were restricted to limited accounts. Because that's the genius idea. So as they were doing the work and taking care of cases off them, because apparently that was the reason, you know, help desk was doing more work, so clearly they weren't capable of doing it. That meant that they could not justify as many man hours they were charging the organisation for what the second and third level workers were doing. So on Wednesday night, the second and third level workers removed the elevated privileges without notifying the help desk. Possibly our managers were notified, but not what the implications were. So here comes the compliance. See, as all we could do now was catch and dispatch, nothing else. Simply take the call, log it in the help desk system, saying someone needed their account unlocked to be able to work, someone else wanted their password changed as they had forgotten the password, or another person needed access to his folder on the file server, etc. This is all run-of-the-mill stuff, that level 1 tasks that need to be done, you know, that a help desk can complete. However, not this Thursday. See, the computer corporation that they needed to do their weekly team building exercise. Because everyone needs a weekly team building exercise, right? And that was something that Alec and OP were not privy to, not working for them. However, I'm sure they were told how much extra money they would be making doing all these extra cases that they'd taken away from the help desk. Anyways, here comes the compliance. See, all we could do now, which we've gone through that already. Alex started after me, as he then had the later finish. So I explained our lack of access now, and that we would have to simply catch and dispatch calls now, with the computer corporation doing all the work. This is boring, and what gives help desk companies a bad name. And people in help desk roles a bad name. You know, the guy who sat there, the guy who you want help from, who says, well, well, I can't help you with that, but, have you turned it on and off? Yes, I have turned it on and off. Do you know how, to use the mouse? And you're like, can I get to someone who can actually fix this? Well, this is what happens. This is why people can't fix this, because you have idiot companies above people who work at the help desk who are like, well, you can't do this, we have to do this. And then you sit in a queue that never gets answered. So as I was saying, we were at that point where it was boring and it gave help desk roles a really bad name. Alec wanted to go to the managers to get his name changed immediately. However, I convinced him to comply with corporations' dictation. We would allow the people directly affected by not being able to work to complain to their managers, and then they would complain to ours. So we don't look like we're being difficult to the computer corporation's new stance, whom we had to get along with. See, that's the malicious compliance right there. By going, well, we're not the problem. We're just doing what was said. We're just doing what they wanted. And oh yes, did people complain. The manager for Computer Corporation got hauled out of their team meeting to fix things up, so we could do our work and our colleagues could then do theirs. When their manager asked why we did not say these cases were backing up, we replied that we could not change, unlock passwords, and they were busy in their meeting and we were asked to leave them alone, do not disturb them. Petty, I know, but we did get our admin rights back before lunchtime. And now things have actually changed, and domain admin rights are not handed out so fast. But this was the early days of Windows 2000. And then there's a little comment down below which says, Alec, you magnificent, blah blah. Hope you are still kicking goals, and this brings back memories. So we're going to move on to another story. Let's get into this one, shall we? And this story is a interesting one. It's a very short one again. Well, it is very short. There is some length to it, but it's also a very scary story at the same time as well. What I worked with, not worked with like as in terms of work, but I've had the pleasure of enduring Windows 95, Windows 98. I think I had to endure Windows 2000 at one point. I can't even remember why. I think it was like a library computer or something that was horrible. Then I had to endure XP, which actually wasn't bad. I actually quite enjoyed XP. XP was probably not the greatest in terms of features, obviously, because features develop over time. But in terms of stability, XP was pretty not bad. Then I had Vista. Holy crap, that atrocity that was Vista. I think we all remember that. Anyone who's had computers at least. Vista was, it was a thing. Then we had Windows 10, which was beautiful. Windows 10 was frankly quite beautiful, and I enjoyed working with Windows 10. Then we had Windows 8 and 8.1, which were sort of the same thing because Microsoft couldn't decide whatever the hell they wanted them to be. And frankly, I never went to Windows 8. I had the option to. I didn't. I upgraded from 7 directly to 10. My first gaming experience was on an Amiga PC. Holy crap, man. That's like something. Mine was not an Amiga PC. Mine was a Sega Genesis. That was the earliest console that I played on, was Sega Genesis. And I enjoyed it. Obviously Sonic and all that jazz. That was just awesome to play and stuff, and yeah. Oh, that's awesome though. I mean, there's nothing to bash all the systems. All the systems are amazing and brought so much joy. Like, I think, like, when you play on old systems and see how far, especially PC gamers came, right? When you look at PC as a platform, the amount of options and flexibility you have to play almost everything, there's very stuff that you're limited away from. It's amazing looking back at the few games that you had access to the vastness of the world and ideas and thoughts and vision that is being portrayed throughout everything, right? But yeah, I'll end up going on about that all day. I will end up going on about that all day. So let's hop back into this and let's do this one. So this is, excuse me sir, your son just shot me. Yes. And this is on r/EntitledParents. So this took place back in 2008-ish. In Iowa, quite a few state parks have shooting ranges that are completely free and just have posted rules. As a rule, everyone is responsible for making sure their range is safe and clean. I had just bought a new pew pew and wanted to sight it in to my own shooting style. I am a left-handed shooter, but right-eye dominant. So when I get to the range, there's the usual people there, including the brass thief, but he's a story for another time. The far left lane is open. So I move my stuff to the table and start setting up my sled and other equipment. To the right of my lane is a father and son shooting a tiny bolt action caliber 22. The gun was one of those that take a key to function every time. Now the kid was maybe 10 years old and seemed to know how to use the rifle because he was loading .22 shots, using the key to reload and shooting again. He was being safe and was keeping it pointed down range. His dad is giving pointers and overall being a good mentor. I load and shoot, wait for the range to clear, and reset targets, and his dad walks away and leaving the kid to shoot. So I pick up my rifle and start to wipe the barrel as I was planning on waiting for the barrel to cool, shoot, wait 0, and so on, but no. I hear the kid fumbling with the keys and getting frustrated. Pop. Bang. I just feel like I got punched in the leg. It hurt. In a weird way, the kid squeaks, sorry, and I take inventory. I feel my leg and find a hole. It wasn't even bleeding yet, but still my brain was going, holy F, 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 I was just shot. This was prior to going overseas, and would have been one of the first times I was shot. I look for the dad and he's fiddling with fishing equipment at the back of the truck. I say, excuse me sir. He interrupted me saying, his son is allowed to shoot and they aren't moving. I say, yes sir, but the issue is he just shot me. He laughs and says, no he didn't. I take my hand off my leg and show him as by now it has started to bleed, but not spray, and that's a good sign. That's obviously a good sign because it means that it wasn't an arterial hit. He stands to argue that I must have shot myself. Yes, because people often shoot themselves in the leg to claim that other people's children shot them. That's perfectly normal, right? Since his son has been shooting since he could walk. I say accidents happen and I'm not upset. I just need insurance information for the ranger paramedics, as I need to call 911. He offers me $100 to just leave it and says it was an accident. I say no and call 911. Other people on the range both started to gather and go find the park ranger. The dad keeps trying to argue, saying his son couldn't have shot me because he doesn't know how to load the gun. And if he did it, was because I was downrange. Kid pipes in and says, yes I do dad, you shot me. And I know, and I did shoot him. It was an accident. At this point, the dad starts to panic and starts tossing everything into the truck. It is scrambled to get away, but before he can, another shooter grabs the keys off the kid's table, as they were also containing the truck's keys. The guy gets more and more upset as I sit there with my pinky stuffed in my brand new hole. Eventually, the ranger gets there and everyone starts yelling their side of what happened. The ranger calms everyone down as the police arrive and starts sorting through everything. I explain the kid shot me by accident. The dad was freaking out and tried to leave, but another person had his keys. They summon an ambulance and they look after me. The officers handcuffed the dad and I was like, wait, he didn't do any harm. I'm not pressing charges. The officers explained that he was a felon and thus not allowed to be around guns anywhere. I'm taken away and they removed the bullet. No major damage done, but he did chip a bone. I know this wasn't the most exciting story on a scale of 1 to 10, but entitled. It's only like a 3, but still. I also probably would have reacted similar. Okay, Anne. I see. Okay, Anne. Enjoy your shower. Now, imagine that call to 911, a user says. Howdy, how's it going? Sorry to bother you, but I'm afraid I was given a high-spilled dose of lead and require assistance, please. Dispatch was surprised when I said that I'd been shot, and that's what I should do. So it's like a little funny story, right? But yeah, let's hop back to this scene. So we're gonna go on to another story from my r/entitled parents, and this is A bit more of a sad one, really. It's a bit more of a sad one. So let's hop into it and let's get into it and we'll get through this one together. You're ruining your cousin's party by taking a nap. Yep, that's the story. And OP says anyone has permission to post the story on the channel for others to hear. So the parent in the story is entitled nonetheless, because it's not my cousin's mom who's being entitled to me, but it's my own mother. And there were so many other things I had to do that day, but I couldn't do due to this very important party. So here is the cast. Me, Dragon Crystal as myself. Mom, my entitled mom. Vicky, my cousin, who's going to remember me ruining her party. Not her real name. Maya, my aunt, aka Vicky's mom. Not entitled. Not a name either. Tom, my uncle, aka Vicky's dad, I presume that's meant to be. Ray, my younger cousin, Vicky's oldest brother. And Kayla, my other cousin, Ray's little sister and Vicky's older sister. Mom comes bursting into my room at 6 in the morning and demands I get up to go with her to Tom and Maya's house to help them set up for Vicky's party. I'm halfway, I can tell her, do I have to go? I've got a lot of college homework to handle and a test upcoming in a few weeks. Mom says yes, it's very important for your cousin and they have a lot that needs to be set up for the party. That starts at 2 PM. And Opie says that they don't remember the exact time. Me, if it doesn't start until 2 PM, why do we have to get up this early? Mom angrily scoffs at me. Just get up. Why are you making things so difficult? You were the oldest. You should always be first to be there for her. Now, get up. After a few minutes of her ranting at me and not letting me bring anything to distract me from this important party, my mum and I get into the car and drive to Vicky's house. As we arrived, I noticed a few of our older other aunts are already in the kitchen cutting veggies, meat, or other cooking traditional dishes. So my mum eagerly drags me into the kitchen to help with the cooking before just chatting with everyone else in the kitchen. Ironically, I was the only one my age in there, because all the aunts were 40 plus, and my cousins that's around my age weren't there. So 9 AM rolls around here, and we are just cutting veggies, making tons of things and arranging them into little sneaks. I'm presuming arranging little sneaks onto a large platter. Maya comes walking with Kayla to check how things are coming along and tells us that they had also ordered food. But it's not ready yet, and Tom, along with our other uncles and my dad, are going to get more drinks. So for the next few hours, we're just sitting around, not really doing anything besides just chatting. Kayla is just sitting quietly with me. After a few minutes, invites me to go with her into her room, chat about school and stuff. She tells me about her dance team. She was part of Humong dance team. Don't know if she still is or left. Before mentioning that she wanted to dance to a song that I shared on my Facebook. I told her I didn't own the song, but I'm sure she won't get in trouble for using the song. As I'm sitting in Kayla's room, I'm slowly drifting off to sleep, because I've been awake since 6 AM, and so far the party is yet to start. But the other food had not, nor did the other guests arrive yet. Mom comes searching for me like a bomb is about to go off, before telling me to go back into the already packed kitchen. But I make an excuse to not go and she leaves me alone for a bit. Important later. We can hear Maya check on Vicky every 30 minutes or so, as well as Ray occasionally saying, "It's okay, Vicky. No need to be scared. There are aunts. Just go back to sleep. Big Brother's here, and Kayla, along with cousin Dragon Crystal, is just next door." 2 p.m. rolls round. The party hasn't started. Still no food, tons of snacks, and drinks packed in the kitchen. I'm hungry, struggling to stay awake, but losing the fight with sleep. Eventually I just give up and slump over on Kayla's bed, kinda dozing off for a bit, cause why not? Bam! There comes Mom busting into the room. "Why are you sleeping? You're supposed to be helping us in the kitchen. This party is for your cousin. You're ruining it for Vicky." "Maya, it's okay. Dragon Crystal is tired, and we haven't even started yet. We're still waiting on the food to arrive." "Mom, she's been very disrespectful to you and her family." Mom's yelling wakes up Vicky, and our other aunt goes into to quiet her down, before telling Mom to lower her voice because she woke up the baby. Mom turns back to me and says, "See what you did? You woke Vicky. Yup. She'll remember this forever." Me very annoyed. Now, Vicky's barely a year old. She's never going to remember any of this. Maya, seeing that this is going nowhere, turns to me and says, "Actually, why don't you, Rye and Kayla, watch over Vicky until the party starts?" Mom glares at me, but stays quiet because Maya is giving me something to do. But Mom kept coming back in to make sure I was actually babysitting Vicky and not sleeping. 5 freaking hours later, the party finally starts, and by then, it's nearly 6 p.m. We're finally allowed to eat, and I've wasted the whole day waiting on an important party that took almost the entire day just to start, when I could have spent it on my college assignments, or better yet, studying. Does Vicky remember that I slept for a split second during our party? I highly doubt it. When she was old enough to walk, she freaked out and ran away from me because she was, picky about the people she wanted to cling to. It wasn't until she was 10 that she finally approached me to ask for paper and crayons to draw. On the last time she came to visit us with her parents, by now she's a middle kid and has another brother that she's taking care of. TLDR. My entitled mom claims that I'm running a party. That I'm ruining a party meant for my cousin by taking a short nap. She's freaking 4 months old. Oh my goodness. For God's sake. So yeah, this is a messed up story for OP, obviously, right? Because this is just, it's just extreme. Like, what is the harm in sleeping when the party is going to be for hours, right? Like, you don't know when the party's going to be. The party's going to be ages away. So what's the harm in sleeping, right? What's the harm in taking a break? What's the harm in doing college and assignments and stuff? Surely that's what you want your children to do, right? To focus on, their education and everything. But probably not for this parent. Probably for this parent, focusing on your education is a step too far. You shouldn't focus on your education. You should focus on what they tell you to focus on. And if you focus on anything else, well, that just makes you a bad person. I'm really sorry that this happened to OP because it really sounds like their parents are overbearing and stuff. And that's just not right on any levels at all, right? To be that overbearing and inconsiderate and treat your children like sort of slave labor. Like, you're gonna do all these things, you're gonna do it because you do all this, while Mom sits and chats to people, right? Mom didn't do anything. Opie says, she was in the kitchen cutting veggies and meat, preparing dishes, helping the other aunts, and Mom was just stood in the kitchen chatting away, having a right good time, Oh, look, isn't this wonderful kind of a gig? And that's just not right. That's not fair. That's, in some ways, that's very, very selfish. You're taking away potentially your kids' education and happiness because you want to have a day where you get to do what you want without having to worry about anything. But anyways, guys, give me 1 second. I just need to do something and then we'll be right back. Apologies, pardon me, I am back now. So we're going to go into the final story. This is the final story of the day. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one as well. I've enjoyed the stories today. I find them quite enjoyable. I hope you guys have as well. We've been going for about an hour on this, which is about where I wanted to hit on the time of this kind of thing. I'll probably do this some nights throughout the week. As well as I'm going to do short videos on the weekend that we're going to populate the channel with to some extent. On the weekend when I have time to do so. So let's hop into the final story so you guys can experience it for yourselves. So, spoiled brat puts himself in danger, gets injured, and parents threaten to sue. So according to OP, this happened 45 years ago. When they were about 13 to 14. So they might not remember everything word by word. Also, I am from Vaughan and a non-native speaker, so excuse my mistakes. So if the OP is not an English speaker and they're using a phone to do this, so there may be some issues. Backstory, I am from a relatively poor Middle European country. I think that's meant to be Middle Eastern. I've never heard the term Middle European, so it might be Middle Eastern, but I don't want to presume. It may very well be Middle European. Anyway, my family wasn't well off financially, but we had an average lifestyle. Parents saved up for an insane amount of money compared to standards here, so they could send me to a fancy international camp so I could practice English. I struggle a lot with speaking and see that kind of rich and tight environment too. So, important things to note, this camp was insanely fancy. Most kids who were there were filthy rich, with their parents owning banks, hotels and things like that. So I just pretty much didn't belong there, which most people realised immediately. So on to the story. The camp itself was in another school, so it was in another country, and to spare expenses, I went there by bus. It was a rather long ride, 12 hours. On the bus there was a few other kids. The one that stuck out to me was EK, entitled Kid. The story is about him. He's a very spoiled little kid. As you can imagine, he was about 13 too. He immediately realised that I wasn't nearly as rich as any of them and started bullying me, telling everyone how poor and filthy I was, bragging about his financial background to my face, showing off how his expensive, belongings and stuff like that. After a while of me not responding, he got bored and started walking around the bus making misogynistic and sexist comments about me towards the other kids. I was the only girl on the bus, so that was obviously targeted at me. Basically kept being a little brat. Fortunately, when I got to the camp, we both went on our merry way, and the next time I heard from him was when karma struck. This was mostly a sport-themed camp, and you could apply to specific activities, and one of which was wall climbing. I think you can see where this is going. Entitled Kid participated in that activity, and when he was on top of the wall, he decided he didn't need his harness anymore and unbuckled himself despite the counsellors telling him to stop. There was no one up there unfortunately because it was a small wall. Counsellors were about to go up after, repeatedly asking him to wear his harness and come down. This is where all this rubbish went down. It took maximum a minute before he lost balance and fell a good 3 meters. Luckily he only broke one of his ankles, but was okay. The entire parents flew in from God knows where. from some expensive vacation to kick the owner's butt and threaten them. The parents wanted to sue the camp, but because of the consent forms, witnesses, and I am not exactly sure what other legal background they had to, ground on that. After not being able to sue, they demanded the money to be refunded, as their child couldn't participate in most of the activities planned. The owner of the camp was generally a nice guy, but he was having none of this, BS. With a giant grin on his face, the owner told him that there are plenty of activities they can participate in, and they can cater to his needs, as the camp can even handle disabled kids. The entitled parents continued yelling and threatening, but there was nothing they could do. So they left the entitled kid in the camp, as they already paid for it, and they didn't want to take care of a hurt child, and flew back to their expensive vacation. Okay, no worries, Aunt. Take care and have a good night's sleep. Thank you for hanging out. I'm sorry to hear Anga is not feeling well. Tell him that I hope he gets better soon. Have a good night, and thank you for hanging out while you can. I'm sorry Anga's not feeling well. That's sad. Tell him I'm thinking about him, and I hope he gets better soon. So I kind of felt sorry for the kid, and in the end, his parents left him behind to go back on their vacation. But at least he stopped being, the way he was with others for the rest of the camp trip. I hope you enjoyed the story. In my country, the owner of the camp would have laughed at the parents slapped down the fine for the kids disregarding safety protocols, and if they refused to pay, that's when the local police walks in and enforce the law. Says one of the viewers down below. Yeah. Like, this story's sad. I actually feel sorry for this kid. I mean, clearly his behaviour has been taught by his parents, right? And that's just wrong. That's wrong. To treat people that way and to expect to get away with it and everything. And yeah, I really feel sorry for this kid because, he's a product of his environment, right? And he learned from his parents, and this is the way they taught him to treat people. And then when he is hurt and when he needs them, and they should step up as parents and help him, they abandon him, and he's left alone, injured in a foreign place. I'm presuming it's a foreign place to him as well. At least it's with strangers, right? So that makes it a foreign place. And yeah. Poor kid, right? Sad story. Anyways, guys, if you've enjoyed this, like, comment, and subscribe down below.